Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Hope you all are doing fantastic. Let's take a look and see what's going on with Bitcoin for the day. So, got a strong bearish rejection off of weekly open, but like I had mentioned, we were going and we did test weekly open. Even Monday midnight open, we went above it and actually tested the actual Sunday open, the Sunday 5 p.m. open. So that is extremely interesting. And we usually will test that at some point, but we did get rejected, unfortunately, from it. So, that being said, this is what's called a seek and destroy week where basically both sides got wrecked. Okay. Um, the shorts got wrecked because we went all the way back up here, tested weekly open. And then the longs got wrecked, obviously, because we just fell from there, right? So this was kind of a very, choppy price action type of week, okay? This is, basically, usually this is to be expected at the end of the month, which obviously we're at the end of July. So, um, I'm not surprised that we got, both sides getting wrecked this week. Um, Taking a look at your week, unfortunately, you are losing that 200 MA now. I would like to see us close back above that come Sunday. Um, Not as probable, right? Because now we're getting into a time where there's lower volume, potentially increased volatility. But the thing is that we don't have any real Fed events anymore to drive price action back up. There's no Fed folders, so there's a possibility that we could get some slight retracement, at least to back up to the 200, but it's not as probable as um, if we had done this in the middle of the week or we had a Fed event in the upcoming days. So definitely not a great sign for the week. This is very bearish at this point. And now this is making a swing high if this closes this way. Another thing that makes it more bearish is the fact that we're going to close the month, today. Obviously, July is going to close green still, more than likely, and within the next 8 hours, 56 minutes. But, um, for the next starting monthly candle, there's a good chance that if we are bullish, so like the first week, this is going to dump first and then it will pump. Um, Now, whether or not, we take out these lows is a different question. I would more so still be targeting this 61K to 60,000-ish range. Like, the 60,622 to 61,124 range would be, my target for the beginning of August if we're going to be bullish, right? So what you want to see is you want to see obviously the monthly candle dump first for the first week and then have an expansive move going upward for the second and third weeks. Um, so that's going to be the bullish move for August if we were to get that, okay? So I am expecting the following week to be bearish. Now, the only thing about that is, looking at the week, now you're going to be below the 200 MA if that were the case, right? So if we do get the following week being bearish, then we're going to be trading down here, and we're going to basically have cleanly lost that 200 MA now. The only thing kind of saving us is that we're not quite getting that death cross yet because the 21's not into price action yet, right? It's still all the way up here. So we do have a chance to potentially recover. You just don't want to see price action flirting a lot though with the 200, which it's been doing that quite a bit here, okay? But that being said, like that's kind of the bigger time frame expectation that I'm seeing. Not that it's going to happen, but I'm saying if, August wants to be bullish, that's what, probably probability wise could happen. Okay. Let's take a look at the daily. So the daily, obviously tested weekly open, got a full blown expansive follow through to the downside, testing this and falling into this order block here. Um, if we lose 62,414, guys, it's almost a given that you're going to get into 61,124. This could be our low for the day potentially. You did take out a double bottom, so there's a chance that we can be bullish for the rest of the day. But it's really going to depend on liquidity and where price action wants to take us. This could be enough though, because this is a huge expansive move overnight to the downside, right? You lost about almost $3,000 of price action. So um, definitely, you have enough of a move to the downside to get some sort of bounce back up to the upside and reversal. Now, taking a look at the 12-hour, same type of thing. It shows more of a head and shoulders pattern. This is where, there's a potential that this is a bear trap because if you look at this, this is a complex head and shoulders like pattern. But it does, it's going to invoke a lot of people to short. A lot of people are going to chase this short thinking that we're going to come, way down 60,000 or even further into the 50s. So this could potentially be a bounce point because this does look very bearish. It's a very bearish pattern, okay? The other option, I'm going to throw out there too for the month of August is that we could potentially pump next week. And if we do get a bullish candle next week, there's a possibility that August will be bearish, right? We'll get bearish expansion to the downside. That's another possibility. So just, look out. Next week is going to be extremely important to identify where the potential trend is going to be for the whole month of August. If we get a bullish move back up, we're, above the 8-hour, the 10-hour, 200 MA, we could target the 70,000 area, but just know that, because we're starting off the month very bullish, and maybe there's not going to be that much of a wick to the downside. There's a potential that by the end of August, we're going to be more so down here, so um, it's going to be very interesting to see kind of where August starts at, okay? And obviously it's starting over the weekend, so that's another interesting point, but I'm not expecting a lot of expansion for August until the first week, outside of the weekend, hopefully. Because if we get it on the weekend, then, it's going to be a messy week. I don't like when there's expansive candles on Saturday and Sunday. Um, the 8-hour, the 10-hour, the only positive here, even though you got rejected, is the fact that you're bundling moving averages. These all are getting tight. So there is still the potential that we could get that move back up to the upside. And again, like I said, if we get those crosses, if we get this to, the candle to actually cross over the 200, get that golden cross with the 21 as well, and we keep that 50 there, we could see a move up here, right? We could see a retracement all the way up to here before we get a rejection potentially. I know it's hard to think about, or it's not very, in your mind, you're like, how in the world are we going to get up here when we just dropped, from $3,000 last night? Well, just we got to be open minded with the market and what it can do, right? And this is still within an accumulation period. So there's always that possibility that if we do get those golden crosses on the 8 and the 10, especially because the moving averages are tight, we can get that huge expansive move up that I've been waiting for. Okay. At least up to here, with this upper range here. Um, so taking a look at the 4-hour and the 6-hour, those are looking extremely bearish. Obviously the 4-hour losing that 200, not what you want to see. It is closing within the next 50 minutes. So if we can get some sort of a retracement back up, which is highly doubtful to get a strong reaction at this point, but if we can, there's a potential that we could round out that 21 instead of having it, start becoming a death cross to cross over the 200. The 6-hour, also the 21 pointing down now, losing that 200. So 4-hour and 6-hour looking bearish. 8 and 10-hour have some potential. I wouldn't say that they're bullish just yet, but they're giving me some hope with these tight moving averages. Your daily, I can't ignore the fact that this is a strong head and shoulders pattern, but the daily and, the 2-day, 3-day, it's just not looking great. It's looking like we're going to come down here and make a, bullish 786 potentially, but you lose a lot of ground when you get down here, and we got to see a very strong, wick down here if we do get down here, to stay anywhat bullish, right? We want to see a strong reaction from this area if we do get down here. Let's see, the 1-hour getting that death cross. You already got the death cross with all of the moving averages, so definitely, had a nice strong move down. 2-hour kind of got rejected. You looked like you were going to flag out and potentially get that move upward, and you basically broke out of the flag here, but then you just re-entered and dumped it. So yeah, it's definitely seeking a short week. But like I said, you did take enough liquidity at this point, so this could be the bottom, and it is Friday. So um, there's a potential that bottom is in, and then you get the bounce from here. So obviously, like it would be very risky to long this, but you could. That's all I'm going to say. Not financial advice ever, but you could long this and potentially win your trade. I just don't know how far up we're going to retrace, but just know that there's a possibility that the bottom's in right here for the week at least. Um, let's see, 15-minute. Yeah, so I mean everything just not looking great. This is still looking bearish to me. Only thing that you got going on is a potential 786 retracement. You're about to test that right now. That could be a good entry right there if you believe that the bottom's in. Um, so that's the only thing you got going for right now, but we could still just keep rolling over until later on in the day, maybe this afternoon we reverse. It's going to be interesting to see. But it's fascinating that we did fulfill the middle of this order block right here. We obviously just broke through this completely, so I'm going to delete this. But we did, satisfy majority of this order block, and we're getting some sort of support off of the middle of it, looks like for right now, which would be around the 786 level. All right, guys, that is what I'm seeing in the charts right now as far as levels go. If we continue our move to the downside, 61,124 down to 60,622, this range is what I'm going to be eyeing. To the upside, you're going to have to look for some sort of, I would say, a bearish 786 potentially to the upside. So maybe around, at the most 64,581. I would say, though, you'd probably have to pull from one of these impulses. So maybe around 63,654, getting rejected off of the 5,200, it would be around there. When that moves into price action, if we were to get the bounce here. So that's kind of what I'm going to be eyeing for today. Potentially is maybe getting all the way up to back up to 63.5 or 63.6ish. We'll see how that aligns with liquidity, but maybe even we could barely retest the 63.322. This is a 786 that we flipped here as basically as resistance. But anywhere in this range is what I would be targeting for the time being as a bullish move back up. All right, let's take a look at liquidity and see what's going on here. Let me reload this. All right. So taking a look at liquidity, our 4 hour here. So you are diving in and you basically are testing the top of this yellow pool here. That's around your 25x area. But this is a pretty big pool of liquidity. If you do break through here, it's more than likely you're going to revisit that 61,124-ish area to 60,006 like we talked about. So this is going to be your final kind of bounce point before you start dropping down lower. Again, no real liquidity now to the upside, no bridges to bring you back up into this range. So more than likely this will have to happen next month if it's going to, right? 10x does show that there's a slight pull up here around 66K that I was hoping that we would visit. But we got rejected. We couldn't visit this area, and we couldn't get that continuation move to the upside just yet. Not that it's going to happen within the next upcoming weeks. Definitely could, but just not timing wise, it's not ready for it yet. All right, 1 hour. So the 1 hour, you have your trend of saying the hourly is extremely bearish to a -3. You have that potential move, that potential bounce right there, right? So there's a potential that we get a bounce right now. Does take you about 63.6. So again, that's visually where I was targeting, right? That's 50x and 100x checked off. 100x just tells you get up to 63,114, but 50x tells you can get back up to 63.6. So basically that is rejected off of that one support line that I was showing you, or that one resistance line now I was showing you. So I would target around 63.6 for the day if we were to get that bounce back up. It would be a nice little long scalp that you could potentially do. Let's see, and then obviously your 15 going to be showing you kind of the same thing. Now there's potential if we get up here and we can bullishly consolidate, and stay above 63.6, that we can get that continuation move up, surprisingly. So we could start visiting 64, right? And then 64,725, 64.2, 64,725-ish. There are bridges now, so long as we can get up here to bring us back into this major pool. It would be very surprising because it's getting now into the weekend, but anything is on the table for this asset, really. at this point. So, I would, like I said, my first target would be 63.6 if, about $1,000 up from now, if you think we're going to get, some smaller retracement. But you could potentially hold this if you think that enough liquidity was taken and basically, aim for this double top, right? First, you'd want to aim for this double top right here, around 64, if you are very bullish. And then next would be this major one around 65, okay? All right, so it's all going to depend on whether or not we took enough liquidity to the downside. We did take a macro double bottom, so that could be enough for sure. Your order book doesn't have anything. That's crazy. Let me zoom in here. Man. Yeah, it just does not have any orders. So again, that goes to show you guys very low volume, that's a dangerous game to play, right? You got a smaller one at 66.4. You have some continuation down lower, 300 Bitcoin orders down to 61.5, but you don't have anything to really bring you back up for right now, and there's no yellow orders. So that is a fascinating, fascinating thing. That just tells you how low volume it is today. Especially we had so many expansive moves this week. So be extremely careful with your trading today, guys. I mean, I think the move already happened from last night. You could have won a long right here. Um, you definitely could have entered here, won a short down here, but this is going to be extremely dangerous to trade for right now. So just keep that in mind. Again, never financial advice, but just not a good trading day for right now. Let's take a final look at the simple map, see what's going on there. So the simple map does show that, this is going to provide an area of support. You'd have to get past 62,370, and even, also 62.3. So 62.3 is going to be a pretty strong area of support, before you can just kind of flow through and get to about 61,890, then to about, 61,770, getting, obviously getting into that 61.5-ish area. Um, so you have multiple areas of potential support on the smaller time frames, probably going to reflect on the bigger ones as well. To the upside, you kind of have to pass 62,880 before you get that follow through, potentially to 63,480, around 63,600, right? So kind of aligns with that narrative. First resistance point is going to be around 62,880, 62,900-ish. When you can get above there, then you can get that follow through, that flow down into 63, 540-ish area, right? So definitely could see a move to the upside as well as to the downside. Just know that there are quite a few areas where you're going to encounter support and resistance zones, right? On your swing time frames, it does look like we kind of have that same situation going on, where, to the downside, you're going to have to get past 62,370 and, obviously around 62.3 in general, before you can get that follow through, down to 61,890, it looks like. So I would target 61,890, and 62,300 we'd have to get past, and then you could target 61,890, to the downside. And then to the upside, you definitely can target 62,880. Testing that out, we get above there, you can basically say that we can fall through to about 63.5-ish area, which aligns with that 63,600 area that we've been talking about. All right, guys, that is what I have for you for today. As usual, if you guys ever want to use Trading Different and its tools, feel free to use my code Sean. You'll get 10% off of your entire order. Tradingdifferent.com/code/Sean to get access to this amazing tool suite to identify trend, help you identify trend, and see where liquidity's at. That being said, guys, I'm going to leave it there, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Take care.